Welcome to the Blending In podcast, where I chat with innovative educators who are integrating EdTech. I'm your host, Ashley Zarlu, and I'm so glad you're listening in today. As teachers, we don't often get the chance to see into the classrooms of our colleagues, but by listening today, you'll get a glimpse into the most tech-rich school in our district, our Academy of Innovation, through the lens of my special guest, Principal John Bradshaw. Welcome, John.
Thank you. This is fun. Glad to be here.
I'm just really grateful that you as a principal are able to just take some time out of your busy day to talk to me, because I know being a principal, there's a lot on your plate. And so I'm just grateful that you even took the time to talk with me today. So thank you for being here.
Not a problem.
So can you tell listeners a little bit about who you are and how you came to be the principal of our Academy of Innovation?
That is a really good question. I sometimes wonder that myself. I have, from when I was little, I thought I knew what I was going to be. I think some people don't, and some people do. When I was a really little kid, I had decided I was going to be a paleontologist, and I
Oh,
tell people that every year I was in school. I had a favorite paleontologist. I had books about dinosaurs that were thick, and right up to college, I really believed that's what I was going to do. And I took my very first intro to geology class, and it was the most boring thing that I'd ever taken. And I changed my major, which I did several times in college. So I went and got a degree in history with a minor in anthropology. I decided instead of digging up dinosaurs that I might still want to have a history bent to digging stuff up. And and I thought about that a long time. I finished my degree and wasn't sure about next steps. That was in 1999, and my dad was an educator, and he invited me to be a sub, and I did, and that ended up being a career for me. I ended up having a passion for teaching history and government, and I did that for about 15 years, and then uh, I guess maybe because both of my parents had been teachers, and it's just a good career. You get to really make a difference in people's lives, and you get to, I don't know, I like telling stories. I think that helped a lot too. So about 15 years in, I was invited to fill an assistant principal position, and I did that for about 7 or 8 years. Just most recently, I actually worked at two schools, a K-8 and a 9-12, and I was assistant principal of both, and found that I enjoyed working with elementary more than I thought I would. And when this position opened up, um, the opportunity to work with students of all ages, and especially to be able to work with all the different dimensions of the Academy of Innovation, I was just really excited about that, and I wanted to be part of this world, and it's been a really good transition.
Well, kudos to you for taking on this challenge, because like you just said, the dimensions of the Academy of Innovation, like I don't think a lot of people would take that on because of all the complexities that this school has. But it's really just interesting to hear your journey and how you became an educator and then transitioned to that role of AP, and now being this in this principal role. Um, how has it been different serving at AOI versus other principalships and assistant principalship roles that you had?
Well, there's the grade span. That's certainly a part of it. I worked for a long time at a high school, so I was working with 9 through 12 students, with my focus being on graduation and college and
Sure.
career preparation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you get to see the whole scope. I think that's one of the most attractive pieces, is you get to see the whole scope of education from the beginning of beginning readers, and they're so excited about their education. I think everybody in education should work with elementary students because they are brilliant and they are exciting, and their excitement and curiosity is super infectious, and it
Mm-hmm.
just brightens your day. To get to see the middle school piece as they transition from one teacher to multiple teachers. and then to still have that high school piece where we get to see the finished product and we get to help students position themselves as they finish and get ready to go on to whatever they have as the next thing.
Yeah.
I think that's an amazing part of this program.
Yeah, it's a broad scope for sure. And I know AOI is definitely a unique school setup that's different than any other that our district offers. So can you give listeners kind of a little bit of a perspective of what the complexities of the Academy of Innovation entail, those dimensions you spoke of earlier?
So we are both, well, we have K through 12 students, but
Hmm.
we're also both an online school and an in-person school. And more than that, we're an independent studies school. So our model is to help students who are able to learn independently, and we support them um, in the time that we have with them. So our students typically are with our, well, depends on the grade level. For K5, they get daily instruction, and that daily instruction is either online or it's in person 2 days of the week and then online the rest of the week. So it's important that our teachers are good at making connections with students and also really good with communication, because to set the students loose for those other days and still to have them complete the work that you'd anticipated can be a challenge. For our 6 through 12 students, they get 2 days of instruction either online or 2 days of instruction here on campus. We do a Monday, Thursday cohort, and then a Friday, Tuesday, Friday cohort. And then those other 3 days of the week, those students are working independently uh, on whatever work was assigned to them. So that can be a challenge. You've got different kids on campus each day. You're trying to stay coordinating all of those different programs, and it takes a lot of effort to stay on the same page as everybody.
Yeah, that seems super challenging. You've got different models going on with this online and in person, kids coming and going at different times throughout the day. Gosh, that's just like, it seems nearly impossible to manage. But how are you managing all of that? Like, what are your strategies that you're using to pull that together?
We talk a lot.
Okay.
We coordinate a lot to find out what's working and what's not working. Um, we've made a transition this year to Google Classroom. We wanted to be more consistent with the rest of the district because we know that most of our students are going to be coming from schools that use Google Classroom. So we wanted it to be as familiar as possible. And we know that some students are going to come and make a transition to us, and some students are going to find that this model might not work best for them and they really need 5 days of support. And we look at it that way. We don't look at students as being successful or not successful at our school. We look at the model as whether that model is working for them.
Yeah.
Are you able to improve your Lexiles and become a better reader? Are you able to make progress towards graduation? And that really is our focus. How can we tailor our program to help with that? I really like our mission statement at our school, and that is that we customize learning to impact academic achievement, build healthy relationships, and connect with our community. And
Mm.
I think that really is our passion. That's what drives us as a school, is we know that kids learn differently, and we usually end up with kids that have already tried traditional school and that wasn't working. So now we're trying to find something that is going to work for them.
Yeah, you're really like personalizing that the instructional model for each kid.
Mhm.
And I don't think if a kid has to leave your school and go back to their homeschool, that's not a failure. That's just this model didn't work for me. The traditional
Mhm.
model works better for me. But you've got 750 students, correct?
We do. We have about 200 students in our K through 5 program,
Mm-hmm.
and probably a similar number in 6 through 8, and then the rest are high school. Our numbers tend to grow as we get into the older years because um, as you become more mature, you're better able to work independently.
Yeah,
Uh, we try to tell our parents that our schedule is probably similar to what students might see at the college level.
sure.
You know, and when you're in college, you go very often 2 days a week for a class, and then if you want to be successful in college, you don't just limit it to those 2 days. You work on the things that you need to work on outside, even if it's not assigned. I mean, there are
Yeah.
times in college where you don't get homework points. You do the learning because it's essential to the times that you're going to be in class.
Yeah, and it sounds like the program really lends itself to encouraging student autonomy and self-regulation and things like that, those skills that they're going to need as adults, right? Or when they're going off into the workplace or into college as well.
We really emphasize that at our orientation,
Yeah.
is that what we're doing when students come here is we're conducting an experiment of how they learn.
Yeah.
And that experiment involves a cooperation between us and the families.
Yeah.
And we're going to see, do you work better online or in person? So we have students that start in one and they may transition to the other to see, maybe what they need is 2 days in person, and then that's enough of a foundation for the rest of the week. And other students find that the parts they're best with are the academic pieces of school, but maybe not the interactions with peers. Maybe
Mm.
they're anxious about that, or maybe they're just not ready for that right now. And so they focus on the online portion because
Mhm.
it gives them the space that they need to be successful.
Yeah, I love that. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing when you take into account the needs of the students, right? And I
Mhm.
I love too that you said they could switch from one to the other. So maybe they start off online and it's not working and they need a more of an in-person, or the in-person isn't working and they need to
Mhm.
transition to the online. And I think your teachers have an understanding that that fluctuation could happen. So they're not as caught off guard when a kid's schedule changes. Like it's almost like an expectation at times, like that this could happen.
Change is absolutely a part of our school.
Yeah.
Students are with us and then they're not, or students make a transition from one program to another. So our teachers are very flexible and very adaptable. And generally, that mindset on the campus is to do whatever is needful for the student. And it's one of my favorite aspects of our
I
school
love
system.
that. You had mentioned earlier that in order for this to really work, your teachers have to go that kind of extra mile in creating the connections and making sure they are communicating with students. So, how do they blend in those opportunities to cultivate positive relationships with the students and address like those social emotional needs, creating that sense of community when they're online a lot of the time? Like, how does that happen?
Well, one way is because our classes are broken into cohorts, and so the numbers are a little smaller. So
Mm,
the teachers may be teaching just as many students as teachers at other campuses, but because of our model, they break the student body into smaller chunks. So they're really meeting with 15 to 20 students in a class. So that helps. The other piece is that they really try to capitalize on the time that they're with the students. So they really work to get to know their students. They really work to get to know their names. They do a lot of different kinds of activities to get a different look at students. So we do a lot of Kahoot or um, um, Gym Kid, programs that are going to allow them to interact with the students to make the learning a little bit more interesting, but also allow the students to be able to have a voice in the class, and that helps them to get to know them. So communication is huge at our school. There's a lot of emails that go back and forth between the teachers and the students. The other piece is we know that it's a challenge to connect. We know that, and we go into our classrooms each grading period knowing that that's going to be a challenge, and so we face it head on. A lot of our teachers really go out of their way to get to know their students.
yeah.
The other piece is among our goals, one of our goals is a strong, we want to have great first instruction, but we want to have a strong tier two. And we also want to have student connections. In fact, those are our three goals basically for our school. In order to have a strong tier two, you really need to know your students. So we talk about student progress a lot between administration and teachers, between counselors and teachers. That's a big deal for us. The other thing is we've built into our program a day in the middle of the week that is really an enrichment day and a connection day. And that's on our Wednesdays. And on those days, we have either electives at the high school level or we have STEAM for the K-5 and middle school level. And either way, students are coming in to campus and they're taking a class. At the high school level, it might be something traditional like ASB or yearbook, might be an art class. We even have guitar. Students actually come in and they're learning how to play guitar. For the middle school and K-5, it's our STEAM days. We get the kids to come in and they do STEAM enrichment activities. They get to do hands-on things. They get to see their teacher for real in real life instead of just in a little box on their computer, on their screen. And they get to do things. And that enrichment of getting to reinforce standards is, I think, one of the really strongest aspects of our school.
Yeah, I actually have seen this in action. I've visited your campus when one of these STEAM days is happening, and the kids are super engaged. All of the teachers are coming from different content areas, are working together to kind of plan and collaborate around these activities. And the energy and the culture that is happening on campus when these activities are taking place is, I wish this could be replicated everywhere because it's just such a positive environment, and you can tell the kids want to be there, the teachers want to be there, everybody's motivated and they're excited about it. And that was beautiful to see. I'm actually coming again in a couple of weeks because I was like, I want to come again and check out the next activity that you're doing.
It's a day that we look forward to. So we alternate K-5 one Wednesday and then 6-8 the other Wednesday. And so
Yeah.
it allows us to do reinforcement of activities, but also that piece of peer interaction, which is really important. And that's a big piece of school. I
Yeah.
mean, besides the curriculum, the things that we get tested on, we also learn how to take turns. We learn how to get along with others and do that sort of thing. But you're absolutely right. The collaboration with teachers across curriculum is really amazing. Uh, when just before winter break, we made gingerbread houses, but it wasn't just that. The students had to do an entire activity around surface area. So we're
Mhm.
reinforcing math standards while we're doing an activity that, you trick them into thinking that it's just fun and really there's education that's into there as well.
Yeah, I love that. So, okay, so in being the principal of AOI, what has been your proudest moment?
Uh, Pretty much all of it. I love to see the happiness on students' faces that they're here. Um, we see our kids excelling in ways that other students excel. So we know that the program is working for our students. So when we have a spelling bee and our student is one of the best spellers in the district, we know that the kind of education being provided here can support the same kinds of successes other places can.
Hmm.
But more than that, because of our program, we're able to service students that wouldn't be able to have access to this level of education if it weren't for this program.
Yeah.
Um, we had a young lady last year. She was confined to a wheelchair. She had to take her notes with an eye gazer, so she had to spell each word out by looking at the letter on a screen, and that would take her notes for all of her classes.
Oh,
And
wow.
she said that probably the hardest class to do was math because it's really hard to take notes for math and to keep up.
Yeah.
Um, but with the help of her family, really strong support from her family, she was able to keep up. She got really good grades. Um, she excelled in her writing, and she was going to be moving on to college. And so to see a student like that be able um, to succeed and to be an amazing writer and to hear her voice, she was able to have a voice and express that voice in a way that would be different if it wasn't for this school. And that's one good example, and there's lots of others. We have students who have health issues, or we have students who have uh, health issues within their family, and they're able to be a part of our school and still have access to the same or similar things that other students do. And this gives them that space where they can be successful. They can get the same kind of high school diploma and still be college and career ready like everybody else.
Yeah. I just love that so much. So this kind of leads me into my last question for you today. What do you think the best part of being a principal is?
Uh, At this school especially, I love getting to work with every age of students. Uh, every age of students is a different peak at the development of a person in their life. And so getting to see the incredible, genuine interest of an elementary student as they learn how to hold their pencil and write, as they learn how to read and unlock the mystery of reading. It's like a superpower that you discovered that you have. That is uh, infectious and inspiring all on its own. But to get to see the teachers working together, um, our teachers work together. They go and borrow from each other, so they collaborate. What's a teaching strategy you're using in the elementary that I can apply to middle school? Or what are you guys doing in your grade level that we could be doing over there? So we're able to, because of our unique structure, collaborate and work together and inspire each other and pursue different ideas. We really are a learning laboratory in ways that maybe other schools aren't able to do. And I feel sorry for them because we have such a wonderful opportunity.
I mean, it's in the title of your school, right? Innovation. Like
That
that's
is,
what you're doing. You're innovating the way you provide learning experiences for students, in the ways that teachers collaborate, in the ways that technology is being utilized on your campus. It's new and it's different and it's working. So I appreciate all of the insights that you shared with me today, John. Did you have anything else that listeners just have to know about AOI before we end our conversation today?
I think that independent study is it's a it's an it's an opportunity that I think people don't always consider for themselves. Sometimes they wonder if it might be um, less of a program. You might not get to learn as much or those kinds of things. And I want listeners to understand that independent study can be a really wonderful program, a challenging one, obviously, because the student and their family are taking on such a much larger role in time management and in organization and those other kinds of things. But it's a really good program to help students mature and to take ownership of their education, which we always want. And when we see the power of that in students' lives, it really shows us that education can be a lot of things, maybe even different than what we normally think of.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this amazing insight into AOI today with me. I really appreciate your time and everything that you shared with me today. And I hope that if there's any listeners out there listening to this that are on the fence about maybe transferring to AOI or looking into that as your educational option, go talk to John and go check out the program because it's amazing what they're doing at AOI. Thanks for listening to the Blending In podcast. I hope you gleaned some inspiration to blend in EdTech and some top-notch transformational techniques into your instruction. You can find show notes and resources from today's episode on our website, blendinginpodcast.com. If you loved what you heard today, leave a review and hit the subscribe button to get notified when new episodes are dropped. Also, follow us on social media and use hashtag blendinginpodcast to add to the conversation. Until next time, don't hesitate to innovate and integrate.